Okay, and we are live. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Blockchain Game Alliance State of the Industry report and our first panel discussion with our board members today to dive into the statistics, the findings, and discuss what that looks like in practice and what that looks like for 2025. So we have some of our board members here. Welcome, guys. Alex, Yasmina, Leah, who will be co-hosting with me, and also Emphasis, who helped us to compile the report. So also has a lot of information and look forward to diving in. Welcome and thanks for joining.
Thanks for having us, Mel. Super excited to be able to unpack this.
Yeah, it'd be great. I don't know if you guys want to say anything, give a little intro about what you're working on specifically in your space and your role as BGA board members. Just while we're waiting for the other guys to come into the group, we're waiting for Sebastien, our BGA president, and one of the other board members as well. So Leah, I don't know if you want to kick off and maybe talk about Emphasis and how you guys collaborated with us and helped us with the State of the Industry report.
Yeah, absolutely. So Emphasis is a strategic communications agency that specializes in Web3. We're also angel investors. So we've got a portfolio of 17 Web3 gaming startups. I got into Web3 gaming in 2020 because I've had a opinion column on CoinDesk for the past few years. And I wrote about this fascinating use case for blockchain, which was gaming. It was Axie Infinity in August 2020 when they had less than 500 DAU. After that, long story short, we pivoted our business to focus 100% on Web3 gaming because we really thought it was the most interesting that we'd seen in terms of driving adoption of blockchain technology. So that's the history of it. I joined the board in, I think it was 2022 or 2023?
23.
Thank you. But we have been working with the BGA since 2021 to produce this report. And the idea back then was, you've got the Blockchain Game Alliance. They've got this incredible global network of industry professionals that really have so much knowledge in terms of where this industry is going. How could we tap into that and turn it into a report with actionable insights for everybody else? Particularly because at the time there was already a lot of very good reports that were focused on on-chain analytics, but we had a big gap in terms of measuring that sentiment data and qualitative data. So that was where the idea came from. Let's actually go out on the ground and talk to blockchain gaming industry professionals, get their viewpoints, their perspectives and opinions on the state of the industry and compile this report. So now we have 4 years of data to unpack, which is a lot when you think about how fast our industry moves. And that has really given us an incredible overview in terms of how we're changing and helps us kind of make predictions for the future. So we're very proud to partner with the BGA on this every year and already looking forward to 2025.
Awesome.
Hey, Sam.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Hi, Sebastien. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you.
Great. Welcome to the call.
Thank you for setting up. Sorry.
We're just doing a mini round of introductions. Hey, Christine, also welcome. Yasmina, maybe you want to give a little intro also.
Yeah, sure. I go next. So basically, I've been focusing in the last 2 years on the African and the MENA region in terms of gaming. So working currently on creating the gaming incubators for this region with the government, because I do strongly believe that, onboarding this 1 billion people is not going to go through, a big wave, but small wave of through education, retails, where governments are involved, strongly involved, but also regulating within the framework. So that's what we have been working on, but also pushing the diversity within this region by building this new group of African and MENA women in innovation. We know that we have women in blockchain, women in AI. That's fantastic. So we're trying also to kind of give them more, I would probably say, space to showcase their skills in this region, because unfortunately we don't see them enough and they don't get funded enough, and government knows about that. So this is kind of like a joint effort between the governments and the regional institutions, but also organization. So hoping that we can bridge this and make, the 2025 at least a bigger number of women getting into, development, but also creating games, that will kind of go into retails or goes into education.
Fantastic, and we'll dive into some of those stats in a minute or so. Alex, go for it.
Sure. Hey, everyone. I'm Alex Kozlov. I'm head of sales at Altura. I've been here for about 3 years. What Altura is we have an all-in-one platform that makes it very easy for any game or project that wants to integrate blockchain and NFTs. We have every tool that they would need, like SDKs, a wallet, marketplaces, and we're heavily diving into AI this year, so I'm very excited for that. My role is kind of onboarding new games, getting new gamers involved. We have a very large community around the world, so we're constantly doing activations and stuff like that. I handle all the partnerships with blockchains and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm excited to be here and share my input.
Cool. Christina, please go for it. Nice to see you.
Yeah, so I'll dig in. I'm Christina Macedo. I'm the CEO and founder of Play. Essentially, what we do at Play is we turbocharge games on chain. What we want to do is make payments seamless. We want to generalize stable coins in games. We want games to be able to essentially, bring real-time currency and economies in their games. We want everything that they're currently doing in games on chain for transparency, cross-border, like just opening up and globalizing games. What we also want to do is just democratize technology. Like everybody should have an ability to interact with the blockchain. Everybody should have access to technology. Everybody should have access to AI. And where a lot of people access technology, entertainment is through games. So for me, it's always been about the outlet of games, how games brings communities together, how games empower people to even just create their own communities, essentially, and how games just empower people to interact with technology and just learn what what essentially the world has to offer. So that's what we do to Play. We have a bunch of really cool things coming out this year. We're also obviously dabbling in AI in the way of, we think AI agents are players. I think, owning a whole bunch of AI is just part of it. And why it was so important for me to become a director of the BGA is what Yasmina was pointing out. We need more women in tech. And from what I've seen, a lot of the best AI technology is actually being created by women, and they need more space to essentially just show that off, to encourage more to come into the space. So yeah, I'm just very excited to be here, very excited to dive in, and just very excited to talk about the future, really.
Fantastic. And Sebastien, our BGA president, I don't know if you'd like to say a couple of words before we kick off.
Absolutely. Happy New Year, everyone. All our best wishes of success and much more to every one of you. Whether you're a member of the BGA or not, we really believe 2025 will be an exciting year overall for the whole Web3 and crypto ecosystem. There's a lot of mature projects that are launching. There's technology has progressed a lot. There's way many great actors that are working hard to bring the players. So we're going to deep dive in the numbers actually in a few minutes to look at it. But I think generally I want to share a very optimistic sentiment around what we are going to see this year. We've been some of us have been in this space for quite a long time, and we've seen different faces. It looks like we have all the different ingredients that are present this year for making it a great year in terms of adoption and showcasing how the technology really, without pun intended, change the game. I hope that you want to be parts of that revolution that Web3 brings to gaming, like an active participant as a developer, a player, a creator. It's something that it's exciting to be part at all the level as possible.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, without further ado, let's dive into the report because we have a lot to unpack. So just bringing up the presentation. And yes, as Leah mentioned, the aim of the report was to take the pulse of the industry and look at the trajectory for the year ahead. This year we had 623 respondents, which is growing year on year, which is fantastic. And so these are the kind of snapshot statistics from the report in terms of demographics, industry drivers, and industry challenges. And we'll dive into those, each one a bit more specifically as we go through the slides. But firstly, before we unpack the individual results, I'd love to get your first thoughts on this year's statistics. Are there any results that really surprise you or anything that stands out the most to you in terms of the statistics this year? Maybe Leah, you can kick this off since you have a great first-hand view of the stats year on year.
Yeah, sure. Look, the one that we focused on in terms of going to media and sharing one of the biggest shifts that we uncovered in this year's survey insights was that more than half of blockchain gaming professionals now identify them as a gaming professional, not crypto professional. So that's actually really significant because I think specifically for an industry that has actually copped a lot of criticism for its focus on finance rather than fun, to see that the industry is now made up of people who are coming from the traditional gaming space, I think really represents a shift in terms of the type of professionals that are working in this space and building, particularly after we're coming out of the end of, a long, cold crypto winter. Personally, I would have thought that, maybe in the bull run, you'd see more Web2 gaming professionals jumping over, but it seems that we've actually attracted a lot of very high caliber talent from the traditional gaming space who has seen an opportunity and they've stuck with it through the crypto winter or the bear market. So that was actually, that story was picked up by the media very broadly. They were very interested to see that the face of our industry is literally changing. I don't know if anyone would add to that. But I think especially Sebastien too, because you've been there right from the absolute OG days. I'm sure back then it was probably more gaming people driving it, but it was kind of like through the bull run, it changed and it was all, these, I guess, PowerPoint presentations, which as long as you put crypto or Web3 on it, you could sort of raise $10 million at the drop of a hat. Things have changed now, I think.
Yes, like a few things like that for me as a takeaway. First of all, like the main value perception of what blockchain brings in terms of benefit from like the different respondents, it's still like asset ownership that comes very important to like highlight like the different actors of the gaming industry. They are not looking at blockchain and crypto anymore first as a way to fundraise or like to create like an income of revenue for their development. They are looking at it from the perspective that what it can really bring in terms of changing the gameplay and benefit to the players. So I believe that's an important thing, and that's something that's very disconnected from the usual argument that are being opposed to like what is blockchain gaming and what are the people in this industry doing. They are not just here, they are not here after your money. They are here really to change the current status quo around like the hegemony of certain game platform for the distribution, and where like players at the very end of the path like gets the least value proposition. The second thing that for me is quite interesting to see is like well, I would say, unfortunately, it's a statement that's not specifically only to specific to the Web3 industry, but in gaming in general and even tech in general, is like the still very low representation of women within the Web3 gaming industry. So even though the industry is promoting itself and branding itself as like very community driven, very inclusive, the numbers speak for themselves. Like there is still a very low representation of women and certain like ethnicity probably towards like the players, the developers. So like Web3 is not creating like fully this equalization, this means of like creating more equality and more like layering up like the field of play by bringing people who've been ignored by the previous wave of gaming industry, free to play and so on, as much as we want to say. So there's still some efforts to keep doing there to reach that level. And we'll talk about it later, but the BGA has something to do and will try to do something in that field. The good thing is, like Leah, you were saying, like the respondents identify themselves not as crypto people, but as gaming people. So usually whenever there's a new technology, the first adopter, the first mover, they are like people who are like geeks. They are like people who are there just for the technology. So because blockchain gaming came with the technology first, the first adopters were people in crypto. They were pure players in crypto. But we are starting to see we're entering a second phase of the industry, which is more mature in terms of adoption. And now like we have this blend. It's really like 50-50 where people are gaming or crypto. And that means that there will be a different user experience. There is already a different way to understand like who are the audiences behind the product that are being built. They are not crypto games made by crypto people for crypto people. That's definitely a big change versus the previous years. And we can feel that in the fun, in the quality of the games, in the way that the crypto is being introduced. It's not the games don't put the barrier first by having a wallet as the requirement to enter and play. They are trying to onboard players differently. We're seeing many ways like account abstraction, so people don't even realize that they actually have a wallet when they are interacting with the blockchain. Sometimes it's not even mentioned that the content they are purchasing is an NFT or that they are leveraging the blockchain. They are just having fun, buying the asset that they like, interacting, and later on come the benefit of blockchain, being able to sell it on marketplaces, exchange it with other users, and so on. So that's, I think for me, that like probably one of the best way that will drive more adoption thanks to that shift. I guess like the engagement we've seen in responding in the industry survey as well, 3x what we've seen in 2021, which was considered one of the peak year of blockchain gaming, is a great sign as well. So even though 2024 has been a generally tough year due to market condition in Web3 in gaming, like let's not forget that 2024 was unfortunately a record year for layoffs and people who lost their job in the gaming industry. We're still seeing engagement, people who've kept building and then remain in the industry here, not giving up on like why they adopted Web3 and shipping on that. What else? Maybe something interesting is the power of brands. 86% of respondents really believe like brands have a strong impact for adoption of the technology behind, and it's something very aligned with what we've done at the Sandbox. Like we were one of the pioneers. Today we brought 400 brands to onboard their fans into those experiences that like engage them and like allow them to interact with blockchain NFT. But not just Sandbox, like in general, we've seen this Hollywood meet gaming trend that's been like there in the gaming industry. If you look at all the top titles, they always have something from a major franchise, whether they are the characters, the story that have been driving people to engage and spend into it, and like without surprise, it also has benefited blockchain gaming.
Yeah, lots of great points, and I think this report is really interesting in terms of showing the how the industry has matured. So just really with this statistic, just to give a little overview, this year we had 623 participants. Last year, just over 500, and the year before that, just over 300. So it's really great to see. Well done too. It's really great to see how how it's grown, how rich the statistics have become, and how we can start making comparisons across different years. So that's fantastic. And yes, I mean, we've touched on this a little bit, and this is a really interesting demographic. And Sebastien, you talked about it a little bit, but I want to ask you guys, like, how do you think the fact that we have more gaming professionals as opposed to crypto professionals, how will that impact the ecosystem going forward? What are your views on that? And I don't know who might want to kick this off. Christina, I can see smiling.
I can jump in. I think the questions that are being asked, I think is sort of like a reaction to this to the actual study. The questions that we're hearing, developers building games right now are things like, well, what new player funnels can I do? What new experiences can I give players? How do I do like payments, right? They're really interested in just like reacting payments and how payments are, like I said from the beginning, just globalizing games. How do I do user acquisition? Oh, wait a minute, I can use Telegram to do user acquisition. It's all of these questions that are really interesting because we're hearing things like fun in games. We're hearing things like payments. We're hearing things like player funnels. We're hearing things like asset ownership, but in the way of like for the player experience. We're hearing things like user acquisition. And I think that's really the impact that we're seeing is we know that there's so many more people in the gaming industry in Web3 that are not necessarily crypto native because of the questions that are being asked and the type of experiences they want to build for the players they want to build. And a player is a player. When you build a game, you kind of come up with a demographic, and sometimes you think about a demographic you're building for, and it ends up being something completely different. Most game developers are not building for crypto natives. They're building for a huge demographic of various demographics. So the questions that we're hearing, I think, is sort of a reaction to this like particular stat.
I would probably jump here and agree with Christina and add two more points, which from my perspective, I think make sense in looking at this Web2 people coming, is because after decades of challenges that, they have seen in terms of problematic, issues happening within Web2, they came to the Web3 to find the solution. So again, when we look at the report, we see that the ownership is the first things. We know that this aspect is very important for the gamers, but also for the creators or the developers. Why? Because we have had 20 years of games where the asset do not belong to us. Whatever happens with GAFAs or any big companies, they cannot handle this million people's customer service, problematic things, getting your account shut down, and so on. So these are things that are more and more happening, and with the cybersecurities around the world and all this, attacks happening here and there, I think that they have seen that the blockchain can be one of the biggest, keys to this problem. The transparency, more players are asking for transparency. You can't find it in the Web2 with all this centralized aspect into their ecosystem, getting everything, gated. But with what we offer in the blockchain, this is the real step into a real new era for gamers, for developers, for founders. So that's kind of like the real I would probably say the core thing that games is about is engagement and the trust in between both parts. And this is maybe one of the things that we have seen in terms of transformation, which is amazing. So this is kind of my point on that. I don't know if someone else wants to carry on and move on.
Alex, I saw you unmuted. Do you want to comment?
Oh no, I'm always on mute. But
okay, cool. All right, let's move. Go for it, Leah.
If you don't mind, Mel, I just want to add something. I just realized a really bit of important context to this particular data point. When taken out of context, the report, if listeners haven't had a chance to read the whole thing yet, it might seem like we're saying that it's a binary question, like 52.5% say they're from gaming and the other 47.5% say they're from crypto. That's not actually the case. So the amount of people who said that they're from a blockchain background, that's how the question is posed. What would you say is your professional expertise in terms of your background? Only 10.8% this year said that they'd come from blockchain. And that's down from more than 20% the previous year and even higher the previous year. So I just thought that was really important in terms of context. The other sort of expertise that people say they're coming from is things like operations, general sort of development, marketing, things like that. So we're seeing a lot of people come over to this space, but it's not just that the number of people who identify as gaming professionals is increasing. The number of people who say that they are crypto or blockchain professionals is also reducing at the same time. So I just wanted to add that because it's just an important one to kind of help contextualize the significance of that data point.
Thank you.
If I can add one more little thing, and I'll go really fast. I think, for many years, we've been talking about making it super seamless for players or just a regular consumer to come on chain. Rarely have we said the opposite about developers. And especially in the last couple of years, when we're talking about infra and so on, what have we done? We've made it seamless for developers to build on chain. And that's really what the first step should have been. Make it super seamless so as many people can build on the blockchain so that the consumers can follow. And I think that's been really drastically changed in the last couple of years. Obviously, coming from Play, this was our thesis or vision. Let's bring as many developers, creators, and whatnot on chain to build whatever they're dreaming of. But that's really been an inflection point because this statistic is not possible without making it seamless for developers and creators to come and build. So I think that's, definitely a shift.
And I think that's interesting as well in terms of some of the other statistics that we've seen around blockchain gaming development growth in 2024, that a lot of projects were around infrastructure tooling and other services around to support the gaming industry itself. All right, fantastic. Let's move on to the next slide. I know this was quite a big one for us last year generally, and within this report, female representation, 17.3% female representation. Yes, we know that there is an ongoing challenge with gender diversity. And whilst this number is marginally up from last year, it's overall down in terms of the survey responses, and we've seen less women responding and also less women at C-level positions across the industry. It's something that within the BGA we're working to tackle and ensure that we represent the many voices and faces within Blockchain Game Alliance, whether that be across events, activities, and many of the things that we do. And as well with the board, we tried to make sure the board was balanced with both female and male representatives. But I know we have a lot of ladies here as well, so I'd like to get your take on this and what you're seeing from your side, and maybe what you see going forward in 2025.
Okay, so I can start again, at least from the MENA, so the Middle Eastern and African region. I would probably say that I was astonished to see many women, many females coming to events that I visited and attended in the region. So in Saudi, Dubai, we did also we did it in Ghana, Kenya, Senegal, Algeria, Tunisia. So to tell you that two things happens in 2024 is many events happened around the gaming and the blockchain in these regions, which comparing to 2021, 2022, we had like maybe one or two. Now we're having like 10. And during this event, I would probably state 60% of attendance were female. So in development, in creation, so artists, marketer people, founders, they came very, I would probably say, very timid, very shyly coming, asking, and when they've seen like, okay, the doors are open, I think it was quite interesting. So I would probably say that the region I work in, I can see that this has a big transformation, and it's amazing the support they have on the ground. And I hope that 2025, 2026, we will have more support. So this number can quadruple in a way, because we have so many students coming also from universities there. And it's amazing how much they are just looking for, some light, some helps, some advice, some tips to feel a little bit comfortable to kind of put a big step there, if that makes sense.
I can jump in. It definitely makes sense. And I think your keyword is comfort. Web 2 in general was not kind necessarily to women in the industry. We all know it was difficult. It was complicated at times. It was just not easy, technology in Web 2. Now, I found the opposite in Web 3. I think Web 3 as a whole has never had as much diversity, has never had as much globalization, has not had as much as like secularism, meaning like only certain places in the world are allowed to build technology, right? It's been much more opened. Now, what essentially still exists is that like feeling from women that it's really hard to go in tech because of the Web 2 sentiment. I think what Yasmina is saying is what needs to be done. It's the comfort part, where we need to demonstrate how Web3 is so open, how it's diverse, how even the characters that represent blockchains and games and so on are completely diverse. When you look at a Web3 team, most likely it's definitely more diverse than any Web2 technology company or gaming company I've ever seen, right? And we need to demonstrate that a lot more. So I think it's about comfort. It's about demonstrating how open we are as an industry. And what's the most hottest thing right now? It's AI. What's AI? Language models, psychology. It's building these characters. Who's really good at doing that? Statistically, women. And I think it's really the time for this sort of openness when it comes to just women coming into the space. It definitely is related to this boom of AI. And I think as, BGA is doing a fantastic job of opening those doors and creating that comfort. And I think where the industry is heading and the type of technology is actually going to allow, that incoming of women into the space. And we come back to it. How do we make, more women to come into space? Make it seamless for them to come into the space. Demonstrate how diverse we are. Demonstrate that technology, they're gonna this demographic of people is going to literally amplify AI. That's how I see it, anyways.
Some really interesting points there. And I just want to, yes, Sebastien, I really want your thoughts on this, because I know that you do a lot in BGA to make sure that we are inclusive. And I know we have an announcement around this, but let's save the announcement till the end. But please, if you can share your insight.
Absolutely. I'm not going to repeat what both Yasmina and Christina said very well. I think more what's the impact of having a non-diverse industry at the end is we are seeing a lot of repeats and into the game and the gameplay and the graphic that we're seeing. We're really losing an opportunity by not creating an environment that's make it accessible and make it desirable for women to come work and be inspired by other women in the space and feel safe to work in this space. And at the end, we end up with all those games were like the most successful title, the one that tend to monetize more, are like shooter game with a very biased representation of women that start to impregnate again like the younger generation and not create. And it's a vicious. It is a vicious circle, in my opinion, and it could become a virtuous circle if actually we progressively let and onboard more women through this opportunity, including into new markets like MENA or India or South America and LATAM, to create games that are appealing to different niche of audience, and those niche can be very large or like are more like mixed audience in a way, and that start to break out those very, I would call, nasty representation of ourselves that unfortunately that the video game industry has been plagued for so many time. And I'm very concerned because I'm also like a father. I have like a 6-year-old daughter that I don't want her to grow in a world where the marketing is going to keep promoting very I would call sexy characters that only unfortunately show women in very short attire and very prominent feminine attributes, to say the least, instead of like just like a certain regular character, male or female, without abusing of these techniques to actually showcase like the heroines and that she should be inspired by through video game, which has become like now the number one cultural medium to push for content and cultural adoption and new trends shouldn't be like that. And to change that, we need women to actually be like the creative force and to be balancing out that and have their say at the table as well.
Yeah. Leo, is there anything you want to add on this point?
Yeah, we'll say something just quick. I think, I've supported a lot of women in blockchain initiatives over the years and been very involved with the space. And also when I first joined blockchain, I was very interested in its social impact potential and talked a lot about that. If I can be brutally honest, it got me absolutely nowhere. I think a lot of people don't care. From a business perspective, if you talk about diversity as something that is needed to improve and enhance the bottom line, create more robust companies, make better decisions, build better products, you need a diverse team and you need diversity at leadership. It doesn't matter whether it's all white men or all black women around a table, both of those create groupthink. If we can bring people together who can challenge each other and debate and bring different experiences, different perspectives and viewpoints to the table, you naturally come up with more robust conversations and outcomes. So for me, it's really just from a business perspective now. It's trying to educate people that if they're not promoting diversity, they're actually not future-proofing their business.
I think it's so important what Leah's saying, because when you look at the Web2 industry, one of the comments that a lot of players have is that they're bored. If there's not enough stories being told and not enough storytellers telling them, people are going to get bored. And I think Web3 is the space where more stories can be told that evolve over time, and we need diversity to do it. And I think we are taking the steps to do that. So thank you, Leah, because that's really true.
There's a lot of untapped talent pools. We're working in an industry that has so many skill shortages, and there's loads of people out there who are looking for an inspiring creative job in a great industry that's growing and doing cool stuff. So why not go out and tap those talent pools and make sure that we're providing opportunity, but also building better businesses?
100%.
Yeah, I think all of those points are super valid, and definitely for us as a body and organization to look at how we can work towards that for 2025, and a bit more on that coming soon. Just wanted to really briefly touch on with regards to the demographics that we've broken down quite a lot of statistics. We don't have time to go into it right now, but if you do read the report, you'll see lots of statistics around female representation, diversity, also geographical regions of respondents as well, so that you can see where people came from and the different views across regions, which we'll look at slightly in a minute. Okay, so let's look at some of the industry drivers. The first one, we've touched on it a little bit, that this statistic has remained at the top for the last 4 years, that asset ownership is voted as the top benefit for blockchain gaming. Are you surprised to see this at number 1 again? Should we have moved on from this, or is this a positive sign that more professionals are understanding the core reasons for Web3? What are your thoughts here?
I can actually kick the... Oh, go right ahead.
Go ahead.
You're muted, Christina.
Oh, no, go right ahead, Seb. I'll go after.
All right. I would say not so surprised. First of all, like, it's one of the most common arguments that's been used in the industry to explain the benefit of blockchain technology, and one that we push for as well at the BGA to onboard new members and as we educate about it. The second is, like, even though there's been a few games that experimented with like on-chain gameplay or other more what we call like DeFi mechanics, where you have to stake your like currency or asset in order to play, it's too niche. It's too addressing to a like such narrow market and audiences that like it cannot be made as an argument to attract more developers and more creators to build game, because at the end of the day as well, like people, like all the traditional gaming people who've been also quite challenged to actually monetize and make a living with a traditional business model of free to play and web 2 due to several change into like privacy laws, collection of like player data to make more targeted user acquisition. They've seen that this was they got interest into Web3, but like they didn't see the benefit of the technology straight into like, let's jump into like pure financial mechanics like DeFi or pure play to earn mechanics. However, like asset ownership is generic enough to then like enable multiple business model behind play to airdrop, play to earn, watch to earn, and so on. And that's, in my opinion, a great democratizer that's sufficient to become a key argument without like being also like too repulsive to our like certain audience and so on. Yep, that's what I wanted to share.
And we'll cover some of those models as well in the next section. But Christina, please go for it.
Yeah, I'll go very quickly. I think this is the number 1 benefit because we have a younger generation telling us it is. And I'll give you just a really short story. I have 2 young boys, one being only 4 years old, plays PlayStation, total gamer, obviously my fault, but one thing that is true in his mind is everything he builds, he owns. Again, everything he builds, he owns. It's a given. I think we're going to have this younger generation that's not going to take anything less. So I think, that's being pushed up and saying, yeah, asset ownership is a given. It should be how things are. So yeah, I just wanted to give that small story because I think it's important to see how the younger generation interacts with technology, with games, with what they own, their rewards, their achievements, and so on, and how that will set us up as builders of technology and games, and how we have to serve that demographic that's not going to take less at all.
I fully agree, Christine, and I have, they are already in their teenagerhood, so they have already started this revolution, guys. And I can tell you that the last time I did a workshop in their school in London, it was quite funny because everybody was asking, "When is it happening, madam? Do you know when is it happening?" So, guys, I think that we may, as a blockchain, take the lead through all the education institution because we have this 1 billion people. They are at school. They are the next customer. And that means that they don't want to lose their account, their asset and everything. And I think these are the customers. This are this is our way because they are aware, they are savvy, and they can make it happen. And I think they can push regulation and push the industry to move faster than what we have been doing for the last couple of years.
Can I just add something to play devil's advocate?
Go for it.
So I thought this was actually one of the most interesting takeaways from the whole report, if not the most, because there's actually a paradox at play here. And I wrote a CoinDesk opinion piece about it. The most important benefit that, by and large, the majority of respondents to this survey agree on is digital asset ownership. And yet, if you dig into the rest of the data, we see that a lot of them have recognized that they're still having problems with onboarding, UX. They're seeing that the technology is very clunky, and a lot of them are trying to hide digital asset ownership, whether it's, through, say, free-to-play models. So the asset ownership aspect is not needed. It's completely optional with some games. Obviously, these games exist on a spectrum and different people have a different approach to it. But I just thought this was very interesting to consider, that our number one North Star in terms of the industry is digital asset ownership, but it's also the thing that is causing us the most friction in terms of people getting into these games. So I actually think that this could be an amazing area of innovation. Like Sebastien was saying before, we've seen great initiatives or new innovations come out, like account abstraction, for example. And I do think that it's these traditional game developers that won't stand for the kind of clunkiness of blockchain that some crypto people actually wear as a badge of honor. Like, they're proud of the fact that they've had to jump through so many hoops, and they're so smart that they had to work all of these things out in order to be able to just buy some Bitcoin. Game developers won't stand for that. And I think they're really pushing to be able to get to a place where we can have the best of both worlds, where you can have digital asset ownership, but it's not so freaking hard for people to experience that. So I'm really interested to see where that goes in coming years. I think that paradox is just going to create an explosion of innovation.
Any last comments on this one? Otherwise, I'll move on to the next slide. No, okay. So I think we'll go to the last two slides, which are still about industry drivers, and we'll probably have to wrap up there because we are running out of time. So, but these are the kind of juiciest ones, I feel, are the industry drivers. So since the inception of the report, obviously, we've seen asset ownership as the number one. But secondly to that, in terms of industry drivers, are new models. And it was interesting to see that this came in as player rewards, as new revenue models, and that this changed over different geographical regions as well. So I'd really love to get your views on this, and maybe as per the regions that you specialize in, or just what your thoughts are in terms of new models in the coming year. Sebastien, maybe you can kick this one off.
So I want to piggyback a little bit on like what I was saying before. Like, the video game industry has been quite challenged, specifically last year. It's been like a terrible year in terms of layoff, and layoff as a result of like game studio, big or small, not able to keep funding their team because like the existing predominant business model, which has been free to play, where only 1 to 3% of the user actually monetize, and you're able to like run a positive equation of CPI, cost per install, versus LTV, lifetime value of user, profitably over time, is no more. And why is that? Is because like there's no more the possibility to target users based on their preference and their behavior, since like privacy laws are in place in Europe and many other jurisdictions around the world to prevent data collection and selling it to advertisers and can target them based on their taste and preference. And on the other side, like LTV quite decreased because we've been living in a world where like Ukraine war and like war as well, Palestine versus Israel, and like all the inflation around, etc. Like, people have been consuming less into like video game in general. So the LTV decreased, CPI rise, LTV decrease, the profitability model has broken out. that leads people to think again, like, okay, like what can we do next if we want to survive this difficult time? And like Web3 has been one of the way for many game studios to look at like how they can monetize the game they are producing, keep on doing fun and entertainment products well, and not necessarily repeating the same approach that they considered as granted before. That leads into new model where like you could actually fund the game development by selling assets as NFTs. You can launch your own token and engage the community around, and many other interesting ways to create like a value shift in the economy of those games that are maybe also less dependent on the platform and distribution platforms, hence the rise recently of Telegram game as well, which provided access to 100 of millions of users really quickly and like allow the users to the developers to acquire users at a really cheap price by dropping tokens and so on, but also started to show certain limits already and like challenge again. It's interesting because like we're not expecting to find the right answer or the answer right away around like what will be the new leading dominant model, but there is, as Leah was saying, a lot of experimentation, a lot of innovation again around like how we are going to reward player, how we are going to engage them and retain them over long term. Is it asset ownership? Is it token? Is it meme coin? Is it Telegram games? Is it a mix of all of that? And I like to see that. I mean, like this is exciting to see and to make people discover new models. It's exciting to challenge what people were taking for granted. And this is again exciting to also like challenge like the hegemony of certain distribution platform and the revenue share model that were existing before, because those platforms don't bring the same value as they used before. There's no reason why they would take 30% away of your revenue if they don't bring constantly new users or ability for those users to spend easily onto your products. So from dark times will emerge a great time again for the industry, I suppose, through all that phase of R&D.
Thanks. Would anyone like to comment on this? I think this will be the last comment to take.
Oh, I'm just going to add one thing. In addition to what Sebastien said, is that at least from the MENA and African region, we can see that the funding, the way that, the people get the benefit and the way the crypto are regulated is very difficult. So that's why the new model of revenue and reward for them are like, it's still in an exploration. So there is no wrong or right. There is no this model or this one. They are currently, I'm kind of overlooking few incubators on the ground. And I can say that, we are exploring, we're experimenting on the local and a regional part, what could be the best, because with the inflation, with all the economic problems, the old model of the imperialism that we have known is really kind of not the right way to continue doing business. So once we figure out, guys, I'm sure I can share it with you, but still exploring, experimenting, and seeing what the community versus the institutions and the players want to see, how we can kind of really make it as a village style, but with everybody winning, a slice of the pie.
I'm going to go really fast on the three things that we hear the most about, but the first one, revenue share, user-generated content. Most developers want to know how to finally turn that on. Across the board, this is global. All of our studios across the world, they all want to know that because they know blockchain actually finally enables it. The second thing, distribution. Everywhere anyone else is in a digital space, now for them becomes their gaming platform. Developers want to know, where can I bring my game? Because I can now. Why? Because one, distribution is opened up, and two, payments. Payments is a big hurdle. This is why developers went on the Apple and Google Play Store, literally for payments, like to have a store to sell things. And now we're kind of saying, no, actually, you don't need that. This is what you can do now with blockchain. And we're sort of shutting that off. And then the third thing is tokens as a grassroots way to fund indie games. what is really starting to open up in a lot of the conversation, and I know we're stuck on time and I could speak on this for like 2 hours, but enabling people who have assets, going back to the asset and ownership, players, how they can take those assets to grassroots fund their favorite types of IP, indie developers, streamers, and so on. That is something that's actually being brought up a lot by players we're talking to and developers. So we're kind of seeing these kind of like three things start to really emerge. And that's all going down to like the new revenue models, which is, kind of really interesting also.
It is super interesting, and there's so much to unpack on each of these statistics, and we will actually be having a series of Twitter spaces to unpack each individual result. This was an overview just to talk about the report overall, but there are so many different topics, rabbit holes to go down and look at what's happened, where we're at, and what we can look for in 2025 in terms of trends and stats. But we will have to wrap this up here. We didn't get to touch on the industry challenges, but there is so much information in the report. So please, the link is in the description. I will share it here again in the comments, but please go and have a look at the report. There's lots of great visuals and statistics and quotes from industry professionals, so you can see some of the insights from some of the key players in the space. But we have a very limited amount of time left, but we do have a really exciting announcement to make, something that we've been working with our board members, with Sebastien and the team. Sebastien, would you like to make our announcement based on what we were talking about earlier in terms of female representation?
Absolutely. Well, as like this association that's like representing the industry and promoting for adoption of blockchain technology within the broader video game industry, if we talk about one of the industry problem, and we really want to make an impact on how we address it, I believe like it's important to also like try to lead by example. So one of the first things that we took in place, we decided to put in place, is like the representation within the board of the BGA to have like equal gender parity in terms of representation around our board members. And I think like it needs to extend into like all the activities that the BGA is conducting publicly or internally. So we're really keen to like open a new position at the BGA and to have a co-president of like the BGA, which will be a woman. So we're officially like looking for an active woman who is interested in becoming the co-president of the Blockchain Game Alliance and work with us into implementing the policies that like every panel, every conversation will have gender parity. Every time we're publishing, we're making sure that we include the gender diversity in to create that to align what we say with what we are doing and make sure like we are not leaving women underrepresented, and in general to lead all the initiatives that hopefully will attract more women toward like the blockchain game industry, not just at the BGA level, but with our members, with the people attending our event, and try to make a change. And hopefully through that, we'll rally, I hope it to become a snowball effect over time. And like maybe next year, maybe in 2 years, maybe in 5 years, we look again and we can be proud like to see that number 17.3% increase, and hopefully create some ripples within the bigger Web3 and gaming industry.
Yeah, definitely. So yes, that is our announcement for today. We are opening our search for a female co-president. We will be sharing the details on our social media in our newsletter later on today. So please follow and you will be able to see the criteria and see what we're looking for. And we look forward to receiving applications. Okay, we will have to wrap up here. Guys, thank you so much for joining and sharing your insights on these statistics, and hope to see you again on some of the future Twitter spaces to go a bit more in depth. If there's any last words you'd like to add, please do. I just don't want to take up more of your time.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Mel.
Thanks, Mel.
Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye, guys.
guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
See you soon. And Happy New Year. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.